Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. Please note that this open meeting will be broadcast live via Westford Cable Access TV and recorded for playback online. Video on demand viewing is available at a link on our agenda. Attendees are reminded that by attending this meeting, you consent to your likeness and audio being used and rebroadcast by Westford Cable Access TV. So the first agenda item for 7 p.m. is open forum. Do any members of the commission have something for open forum? Matt?
Just as Noel's participating remotely, all votes should be by roll call.
Well, I got one thing. Ann and I participated in the, or went to the talk by Harvey Leonard, the retired Channel 5 meteorologist. Mm-hmm. It was yesterday afternoon. It was very good, very interesting. Wasn't trying to push one side of the issue or the other. He was providing factual information, and I think it went over very well.
You know if they recorded it for?
I did not see any recording going on.
I was wishing that they did. Climate change is a topic.
Okay.
Apparently they've been moving around in North Middlesex area.
Okay.
Several locations. I don't know if he's got other ones planned.
Okay. And you had your one thing. Do any members of the audience have anything for open forum? No. Okay, moving on to our next 7 p.m. agenda item, the Westford Public School System's 5th grade Adventure Days 2023 follow-up.
Right. There's a few of us, so hopefully that's
More the merrier.
Just on time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to, you guys, why don't you guys both have a seat here? I'll kind of stand behind them for a minute. We have a couple of our 5th graders from last year, so they're 6th graders now. Ashlyn Smith, she was at Abbott last year and is a Stony Brook student. And Braden Barnes, who was at day school last year and is a Blanchard student. We brought them so they could share some of what they learned on the nature walk, which was our conservation piece. So I'll let them give a little update. Go ahead, Braden.
Something I learned was that the red pines there have 3 leaves and the white pines have 5 needles, and I thought the walk was just like calming and peaceful.
And Ashlyn, what about you?
I really liked the walk. We learned a lot about the beavers and the beaver dams and how they help the whole ecosystem around it. I also really liked it because it was really calming too, and it was really fun to see everything.
Do you guys want to tell them about, do you have a favorite part outside of what you learned during the conservation piece?
I just liked the walk and it was very peaceful. And got to learn about the environment.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Ashley?
I liked some of the water games that we did because they were really fun, and I also liked seeing the people from the other schools and meeting new people because I just like meeting new people and having new friends.
Nice to get to meet some people you were going to go to middle school with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and sit back over here. I'm going to let, we have Mrs. Barnes here, who was one of the volunteers that helped out on the nature walk, so she can give a little bit more description to what they did and what they talked about.
Okay. Thank you for having us tonight. One of the things that struck me the most, there were several kids from both schools that had never been to East Boston camps before. So just to have that experience in general and be exposed to the things that we were discussing, the tall pines, how long they've been there, and particularly how the leaves look different, and so they would go through the walk and picking out where the different pines were, and talked about leave no trace, that when we're walking on the trails to stay on the trails so that we're protecting any of the flora and fauna as well. They were asking questions. That I think was one of the things that really stood out to me. They really were interested in learning about the environment and how we play a part in that. there were 2 beaver dams that we were able to see on our hike. And so just to be able to give that visual along with what we were teaching them was something that I think was pretty memorable for them as well.
And they found it enjoyable?
Yes, yeah. And so the fact that there were kids that had never been there before, they were eager to go home and tell their parents and, be able to come back to it at a later time with them, and they could kind of show off the area to them.
Nice.
When you did the walk, was there a trail map that you used that the kids could take home?
No, but that is a great idea.
Yeah, I was just thinking if the kids want to come back and bring their families, the
Yeah.
map would show them where they'd been.
Sure, I think,
We tried to limit the paper because
Right.
the year
Okay.
before we did a scavenger hunt with them, and that seemed to be something we cleaned up a lot of after.
Okay.
But it is something that we put in the teacher guide, so hopefully the teachers are able to touch upon that, and we can always send that data home to them as well.
Or actually, if there's a web link that goes to email communication to the parents, that would work probably.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, we love to have people go back and visit it.
And I think a lot of kids, did go back. I had a few different parents tell me, when I saw them over the summer, their kids wanted to take them up there and take a walk and show them what they did, and the beaver dams were a big hit.
yeah, and the lady slippers were in them, so we were able to talk about how they're a protected, plant, and also just how to look for them. Some of them had either just bloomed, so the flowers weren't there anymore, but the leaves were, and just to make sure that they're protecting those areas as well. So, but just to see those and hear that this is protected, they've been endangered, they were just like, whoa, and they're just such a unique flower too to be able to see. So, they were excited to be able to kind of go through the trail and spot one, and then they'd all kind of like, okay, watch out, everybody do it, so they were definitely learning.
How long was it? How many days or how many hours?
So it was 2 days that they were at East Boston camps,
Yeah,
and so we cycled through each of the classes between Blanchard and Stony. So we were giving, I don't know, 5
Actually,
or
Abbott Day.
Oh, sorry,
and,
right, yes,
I know,
the
yeah,
younger
new
schools,
schools,
yep,
yeah.
sorry.
Abbott Day and Crisafoli kids.
Yeah, so we were doing, I think, 5 or 6 hikes.
Yeah, so I think the first day they did 5 hikes, and then the second day they did 2 hikes. That's kind of how we spread out. We did 3 classes at a time, but not everybody walked at the same time. So I think there were probably about 6 parents in that group that would, take the teachers and their class around. So it was able to be, you weren't walking in a group of 60. They were able to kind of spread out and be able to enjoy. And we had kind of 2 options if you wanted to take a little bit of a longer walk, because some of our students could do the longer walk and some of our students could do the shorter walk, but they were able to all kind of see these highlighted events. So, do you have any other questions for us?
But you're gonna make a request,
I
right?
am. I just wanted to know if you had any other questions. Yeah.
Waiting.
For me to
Giving you that
request,
segue,
my
yeah.
requesting. So last year, you guys were generous enough to give us a discount to do the 2 days. Even though it is 2 days, we spend a very short time at East Boston camps on the second day, because we split our time at Stony Brook. So we walked actually from East Boston camps over to Stony Brook. So that was a pretty cool experience for the kids too, to kind of see what's back there and realize the connection and how close you are. So I'm glad we added that piece in last year. So I believe we agreed upon $1,000 instead of the $2,000 that it would have been to have the second day there. And we are hoping that would be granted again for this year, and hope that what we presented to you is what you were looking for us to do with the conservation piece, but are always open to any new ideas or suggestions. If you have them, please let us know.
I'm fine with the request.
Yep, okay, so can I have a motion to approve, how do we want to, the same
It's the same
rental
fee
fee
as the
reduction as was done for 2023?
So moved.
second.
All those in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and Margaret, yes.
Awesome.
You're all
We
set.
really appreciate it. And like I said, if anybody does have any suggestions, Matt has my email. If anybody's interested in being involved and wants to get a Corey done, you're more than welcome to come and help us out on those nature walks. Matt has those dates as well, so,
There might be some members from the Westford Conservation Trust that would be interested in doing that. They do guided nature walks on some Saturdays throughout the year.
oh, that's great.
I bet they'd love to do it with the kids.
Okay, yeah, I'll reach out. Is there a list of them or
I
something?
can connect.
Okay, that's great.
Doing an introduction.
Strazis, what's his first name?
Rich?
Rich Strazis is the president,
Okay,
the person to contact, I guess.
always looking for extra people.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much. We
Thank you
appreciate
so
you
much.
having us. Have a great day.
Glad the kids are enjoying it.
Thank you.
So moving on to our 7:05 PM agenda item, Benson, 103 Lowell Road, release of escrow funds for wetland purification. And certificate of compliance request.
Good evening, Jeff Hannaford representing the applicant. On January 8th, we had submitted a letter requesting a certificate of compliance as well as a release of escrow funds. Yesterday, Matt and I went out and did a site walk and noted that there are still some items to be cleaned up on the site. The main thing is the erosion control around one of the replication areas, known as Replication Area 1, the furthest one out back. Over the summer, with site visit with Matt, we noted that some of the plants had not made it through the year since they were planted. So those were redone this fall, and unfortunately, the erosion control didn't get removed at the same time, so it was still there when we went back out yesterday. There are also a few miscellaneous remnants of erosion control that was removed in the remaining areas, so we're going to have them clean that up at the same time. So it's 99% there, but not quite ready for the certificate of compliance. So we're going to be back at a subsequent meeting to finalize that request. But we did note that the replication area is doing well. You may have gotten a copy of the consultant's report, and they found that even without the plantings, the hydric soils had well taken over the area to the point where natural vegetation was greater than 75% by itself. So the plantings just added to that. So the replications areas are doing as well you could ever expect. So we thought that since that was on the agenda, we could ask for that and the release of those funds, and then we'll be back when they have a chance to get out there and do some final cleaning. Just hoping that maybe the weather this week will get rid of the rest of the snow and we can give it a good visual to make sure everything's removed.
So, anything to add on the release of escrow funds?
Nope. Again, per the consultant, the wetland scientist reports, those are in the project file now. They certainly appear established, and with the hydric soils developing is the goal.
The only thing left is remove the erosion control.
Yep, erosion controls and miscellaneous stakes throughout the, limit of work. But overall, the site, is certainly in substantial, or is certainly working towards substantial conformance with, the approved
Just a
plans.
little more cleanup and they're
Yeah.
gonna be coming back in, that's fine.
But the release, if the commission is amenable, certainly open to, processing that. And
Erosion control barriers oftentimes seem like they stay for decades sometimes.
that's why I wasn't recommending the certificate of compliance.
Good, good.
Um,
I saw
but
the-
just
the agenda
releasing-
item said
but-
both, so, all right.
Right, but the wetland replication,
It's going well, okay.
is
Perfect.
established.
So,
I'm good for, okay in the wetland replication, but we wait on the certificate of compliance.
okay, so can I have a motion to release escrow funds for wetlands replication for DEP file number 334-1716?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and Margaret, yes.
Thank you.
So that's done, and you will be back to see us about the certificate of compliance.
See you in the spring.
Right.
right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Take care, have a good evening, be safe.
Moving on to our 7:10 PM agenda item, it's a continuation of public hearing and issue order of conditions for Stella, 89 Old Lowell Road.
The representative and the property owner are unable to make it tonight, but both were provided a copy of the draft special conditions. They did review them, and they had no changes as they were, they didn't have any comments or request any changes.
Okay,
Okay, everybody's fine with the order as written?
fine.
Okay, can I have a motion to issue the order conditions for DEP file number 334-1839?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Noel, Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and Margaret, yes. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and Margaret, yes. Okay, so that's done. Moving on to our 7:15 PM agenda item, it's a continuation of public hearing for Jack and Clara Farmstead LLC, 400 Littleton Road.
So, good evening, Cheryl Woods, the applicant. I did want to take and just tell you that as a result of Mr. Bailey's Solomon-like suggestions last meeting, we worked very hard on trying to make some compromises for those concerns. And I thought I'd just put the picture up here on the desk because it's certainly a lot more pleasant to look at than all the lines. And kind of demonstrates too that we are talking about a two-story building, but it's not a huge imposing structure. It's got a lower profile than what we've been talking about. And I wanted to just point out to you too that the sawmill replication is going to be museum-like, sort of like the Lowell Textile Museum did with the equipment behind the windows. So as you're walking up to the bumper boats, I've lost my orientation. As you're walking up to the bumper boats, you'll be walking by a museum piece of the Lowell Community District, which I think is kind of cool. So I'm going to have Russ walk you through the changes that we made, but I hope you'll be as pleased as I was with the work that we had.
Your shoe's untied there. I don't want you tripping your shoe.
I know, it
And
hurts.
I just don't want to see it. No,
Thank you.
just don't want to see you tripping.
Thank you.
Yes, for the record, Russ Tedford with Hancock Associates, civil engineer on the project. So since the last meeting, we had a powwow between us, the owners, the architects, as well as the structural engineers chimed in also. And we came to them with, requests of kicking the building north to gain the 8 feet, to eliminate that last row of piers, which is what you see here. As well as some other changes that we talked about. Additionally, to the west, the walkway that we had moved from the previous plan is now in a different configuration. This is per the architect and as well as our construction project manager's recommendation. It's just a different configuration. We were able to obtain elevation data for the boardwalk ramp to verify its compliancy with ADA regulations. As you can see, ramp coming from here, there's probably going to be a footing at that corner landing, and then 2 footings in the similar footprint of the existing boardwalk ramp. During this discussion too, there was talk of possibly cantilevering off of the structure to eliminate the need for a footing, but they won't know that until they get into exact construction. So we're showing it as that way. Also, I guess we'll just go back to the shifting of the concrete piers. We're proposing just to renaturalize this area, remove the piers, remove the recharge trench, plan with the New England wetland seed mix, allow it to naturalize, and then replace the recharge trench at the rear of the roof with the similar boulders, placed 10 feet on center. That way we cover ourselves for stormwater and to remain with the same type of stormwater management strategy that we were going with here. In meeting with the structural engineer, we have the letter that was submitted. He confirms that the existing piers are adequate to support the capacity. He does note that in his letter that the grid and the alignment of the piers do not line up exactly with the point loads that they're proposing to put in there, or proposing to where they fall. So I would think of it as that you have the piers and there's going to be columns that go up to support the first floor deck and as well as the second floor. But he noted that there's potentially 16 piers that might need to be modified to move these columns to be center on the piers. He said 16 as a maximum number. He said there might only be 6. So that's why we're showing 16 in this configuration here, just to be forthcoming. Currently those plans are being worked out right now. Structural and architectural can't exactly move at the pace to keep up. So we don't have those plans yet, but we do plan to coordinate those with the most recent plan that we have going forward.
Can you just let Ed describe how he would propose to sister those, and if they have to be done, to do it by hand?
You mean that where we see a new, what you've now got, I don't know, pier, so the things in the ground, they're now, where we're seeing an existing and a new, there will be 2 piers kind of side by side?
It says they're made.
Will they move one of the pilings? and
Because
put
it talks about additions or modifications, so
Right.
I'm not quite sure.
Right.
Will we?
I think they're working on that.
Excuse me, Ed Dumont, General Manager for
Yeah.
Kimball Farm. What we're planning on doing bonding them both probably together, if, depending on the load, where it fits, and doing it up that way.
Okay, so it's instead of replacing the existing adjacent ones, it's an additional concrete pier to support the weight?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, and like I said, we submitted the letter from structural. They're currently working out those plans now. They gave us a total of 16. They also mentioned it could only be 6, like the one row here. But that's something that they're currently looking at now. Obviously,
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. There could only be 6, you said?
he said that he gave us, so they're going through the design now, and they told us the maximum number they think is around 16
Oh,
modifications.
they would need to add the maximum number.
Yeah, and they said the low number would be 6.
Oh.
So they're still looking at it, and we currently don't have their updated plans as they're working through the design still, so.
So they're running the calculations?
But they're showing us the max that they
Yeah.
potentially could put in
Okay.
at
Correct.
16.
Yes, then we just want to be forth that this is this kind of the worst case scenario that we're showing here. And another, I believe it's the last change we had. So up at the entrance vestibule, this was input from our construction manager. He would rather see a ADA accessible ramp, 8 foot wide, connect directly to the existing driveway here. Before we had a stair, we had an additional concrete ramp to the left of it. So in this configuration here, you see this ramp is about 22 feet long, connects to existing driveway. In order to maintain ADA ADA regulations for accessibility, kind of have to maintain this 5% slope here. And that's what we're doing, is we kind of have to chase it down a little bit further. And then we show a saw cut line where the second deck is shown. And that's where we think, where we're going to end up meeting existing grade and meet the ADA regulations that way. And I think that wraps up all of our
So to, to get the grades to work, you actually have to redo the grades on this right side of the building and tie them at some point to the existing grades.
Correct, yes. It's tough to see in this drawing, but I believe if you just zoom in there. Yeah, as you can see, there's it's actually supposed to be 245, that's a typo. But yeah, it's just slight modification. We're talking just tenths over it. And we already have to cut we already had to do a saw cut patch to bring through the electric utilities, as well as, the electric utilities down through here into the bathroom building. So we think that this additional work here is definitely not as detrimental as it may seem, so to speak. And additionally, we're gonna change the edge of pavement to this area here. It's gonna be 3-to-1 slope. We propose to plant it as well, so reducing more impervious on site.
Outside the 100-foot anyway, right?
No, that's.
No, it's not. His
So-
grading will come well within it.
Yeah, the
It's
grading.
outside the
This
buffer.
part down here, but I mean, here's the line here, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. But he's got to
Yeah.
grade down to
Yeah.
that second one.
yeah. I just want to reflect that because
Yeah,
of
that
this change here, it
You've thought out
reflects.
this level of detail and you're showing us,
Yeah, that this is gonna, this change in turn in facts, causes changes within the buffers.
but you're thinking that part of it ahead, you're thinking that part of it through so that, we're seeing, what we're seeing is kind of really that much closer to what will happen when construction would happen.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think that wraps up our changes.
You were
right?
going to show them just the crosshatch existing building on the left side.
Oh, the sawmill.
The existing
Yeah,
piece of it.
I think
is-
we went over this
yeah.
in previous meetings,
Yeah.
but yeah, there is a portion of the existing sawmill that was within the 55-foot no builds that we're planning to maintain. It's gonna be roofed, and as mentioned before, the roof, is a gable, typical gable pitch, so around the midpoint, it's gonna tip back, and, runoff from that portion of the roof is gonna be in our stormwater system under that first floor arcade building. But that wraps up our plan changes, and we're here for any questions you may have.
Yeah, I saw that the structural engineer's report talked about also taking into account roof snow load and floor live load. So, yeah, it's not just the structure, but it's the structure when stuff happens.
Full of jumping people. That's what you gotta do.
Yeah. Good.
So, thank you very much for listening to my comments the other night, and, it's reflected in the plan here, and it's, certainly better than it was the first time, at least for me, when I saw it. My one sticking point now is, we're pretty close to the 30 where we were trying to get. Except for this one area that we're still down to about 17 and change, was it 17.4 feet from the edge to the wetland? And I'm just wondering if there's some way we can refigure this jog somehow to get this further away. But that's my issue right now. I'm down to this area here, which is better than being everywhere. So,
I will tell you, I did a lot of arm wrestling to try to get the engineers and the architects there. And it seems that the building is a post and beam building, so it is very difficult, if not impossible, to do a cutout at that point, because I thought of, creative design work that might do it, but the way the building was constructed and built off-site and brought in looked like it wasn't able to be done. What I did ask them to do is show that your line there, Mr. Faley, is picking the very closest point the corner is to the wetlands line. If you start going across the building, I think it gets great improvement as you go around the corner.
nope, it is.
Yeah. And again, it's not that we're gonna redisturb that corner, it's gonna be on piers that are already there. But I really do appreciate that you puzzled through a way to find a solution rather than.
Now, I don't know where this could possibly happen, but what if there would, Eric, what would you think about a replication in exchange for that corner of the the building. It's too close.
Yeah, you know, I have two things. That could put, instead of taking a jog, you could simply make it smaller. You know, if you had to square it off.
Yeah.
I mean, if not that, let them propose an area for some
Okay,
replication.
and it doesn't have to be right next to this, because I don't.
No,
I'm
it
not-
doesn't. Yeah, no, it should be in the vicinity, but it doesn't have to be.
Right, maybe contributing to the same wetland storage
Yeah,
area, but not necessarily right on top of it.
Yeah.
That
no,
was
I'm-
something that was on my to-do list, and again, you know, I did review the minutes, following the last meeting. You know, the storage area that was described in, I think, the previous order of conditions for this, there isn't any reason why it just stops. A plan change occurred and it, you know, was removed. That's the extent of the meeting minutes. Additionally, in terms of, you know, replication, I did have some thoughts. You know, I'd be more than happy to, you know, discuss that with the project team, you know, and again, you know, certainly the area to the south of the proposed building, you know, that being renaturalized with, you know, a native seed mix, but also, you know, there are other, it is a fairly large site, you know, we can certainly, if we can find, you know.
I'm willing to listen to suggestion and, you know.
Yeah, and I can certainly kind of discuss that.
Let's explore
with-
that, but, you know, I thank you very much for making the changes to the plan that you have. You know, we spent some time on it at our last meeting, and, you know, it's reflected, so. So those are my comments.
Noel?
Same thing as Eric, I appreciate their effort to
Okay.
listen to us, yeah.
Jim?
For the remaining corner there that's inside the no disturb area, I think some sort of a replication area that contributes to the same general wetland would be appropriate. Doesn't have to be right on top of this corner, doesn't have to be right here, but someplace in this continuous section of wetland.
And I was thinking, I was kind of thinking about that as well. My only concern with doing it on this side of the wetland is we're making things closer. I'm wondering if.
I didn't say
yeah.
this side, just this wetland.
Yeah, but,
Whatever side is appropriate.
yeah, my
that-
thought is if there's opportunity to do replication on the other side, or if you've got some thoughts about.
Yeah,
how-
again, I haven't explored, you know, and.
You guys
followed
know
up-
the site and where there might be an opportunity, probably
Right, I
better
mean,
than we
the-
would right now.
One of the other thoughts I had just driving up 495 every day is I don't know how the leaching area of the septic is being, you know, obviously you want to maintain that so you don't have woody growth and, you know, roots impacting the leaching area. But, you know, is there an opportunity to, you know, create a more meadow mowing it every
Yeah,
once-
meadow rather than a manicured lawn.
Yeah, you
You're
know.
talking on the other side of 110, up by 495?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I was thinking something,
I understand that. I understand that,
All
but
right.
my thoughts were, you know, if we could get, you know, because that is pretty close to that wetland, you know, on that northerly side, you know, or if we can get a, you know, an area of meadow.
I'm all ears to listen to
So you're
suggestions,
thinking
so,
outside the
yeah,
box.
you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking not in proximity to this, because again, you know, we are, you know, there certainly are areas where, you know, not, things are occurring already, you know, to the south of the building, and, you know, where can we have a much greater impact, you know,
Yeah.
to, you know, so if it's kind of converted from manicured, regularly mowed to bi-monthly, you know, mowed every 2 months or something, you know, something so it's, you know, and, you know, kind of figure out what the management of a meadow, you know, what gets us to, you know, an increase of habitat and while also, you know, not impairing the function of the the septic leaching areas. Just a thought I had, and
So maybe we continue this, they come back with, you know, some areas that maybe at this point, I don't know what else I'd be changing on the plan.
Respectfully, if I could ask you to think about voting it subject to a replication area, only because of our season and the timelines to build this building, we need to get going on it.
We don't even have a EPA file
The
number
DEP file number.
for the DEP yet.
I would
I'll
think
check
that
right
if
now.
we, if we had Matt work on a set of order of conditions and you came in, it might be able to, something we could work on.
Yeah.
You know, given that, you know, you've come up with something that we can accept, then we can just move forward on those orders at our next meeting, I would think.
So do the orders at the next meeting and have the preliminary, options for
Monday, yeah.
replication areas.
Yeah.
That are-
In the last meeting, we'd also talked about tree replacements, right?
Right, I mean, and maybe, you know, and maybe that's, you
A
know,
replication area related to the, somewhat related to the corner of the building here, and then the trees that have already been cut or are planned to be taken down.
If I could just ask a question, so we get kind of guidance on
Yeah.
replication. So, like, what I was thinking is just take that square footage at that corner and apply a ratio on the, whatever is in your wildland regulations. If
Usually
it's
do what, 2-to-1 on a wetlands replication.
And if it's 2-to-1, we'll just, yeah, that's the earmarked area, and we'll,
It's about 100 feet, 100 square feet, right? How much is a pier? 8 feet between
yeah,
piers?
it's, they're
8 plus,
approximately 8,
yeah,
so.
64 or something, yeah.
It's not a huge area, so.
No, and it just, yeah, is look at.
Are they still gonna need to cut this tree down now? This
It-
one
it's
over
gonna be-
here?
It's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be cut and snagged.
I know, that was with the original concept. I didn't know now that they pushed it back, would they still need to do that?
Which one, the maple?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one down here that's in the wetland.
It was,
It's leaning, but it's still
yeah,
solid.
it was, I mean, that's, yeah.
I don't know, you know, I'm just asking, you know.
Yeah, well, and
Yeah.
Russ, even with the changes to the building location, that tree is seen as a long-term risk for the structure?
See, I wasn't on the sidewalk, so
It
I'm not
shouldn't-
that familiar,
It really
but
shouldn't be moving that back.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, I'm just, you know, if we
So
can
that
save
maple
this
that could be
instead of
left?
having it, you know, I'm
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
happy with trying to save it.
even the arborist that I had there, if, you know, if it gets uprooted, or it's not going to come this way, it's going
It's
to
gonna
go
go-
where it's leaning
So it's
to.
going away, yeah,
It's falling in another direction, so
Yes.
maybe we don't have to snag it. Maybe we can just,
Okay.
since we moved the building back, we can leave it as is.
no?
I have an unrelated question. So these piers are gonna, the last row is gonna be pulled out, right, taken out?
We'd like to, yes.
What's the
Yeah.
process? Like, I'm trying to determine the impact to the,
Pardon?
He's asking about
The
like
impact to the
yeah,
wetlands
the
when you pull them
construction
out.
process of taking them out, so.
Well, everything, unfortunately, everything we're doing right now is gonna have to be done by hand. So if we, we're hoping that we can, like, swivel them around and so forth and just, you know, take we either jackhammer. I haven't really discussed it with my project manager, so you know, I just know it's either a jackhammer or chisel, things of that nature.
no way you can grab the crane from far and pull it up? or something?
We could, you know, do it, we could probably get Steve Cavalier and use his crane and just pop them up that way, you know.
They're
but
gonna be
again,
heavy,
like I said,
at least 4 feet deep below the frost
Several
line.
times.
They're, well, some are 4 to 6 feet deep.
Yeah, they're gonna be heavy, so
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
So,
Curious about the
Figure
impact.
that out.
yeah.
You know, they're just gonna pull them out and renaturalize it.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely,
With as, you know,
Minimal
minimal
impact.
disturbance as possible.
yes, that's a fact.
But now's the time to ask the question.
No?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
That's what we're here for.
Okay.
Have we given you enough direction?
I think, yeah, I think we've got, I mean, replication, we'll definitely look into it now. Now that the snow's melted, I think it'll be easier for us to walk around the site and find a good area to, you know, to plant and make sure it survives.
Matt, you'll start putting together the order.
yep,
Now,
we'll start drafting those.
who would have the action to, because we can't issue the orders till there's a DP follow?
I can follow up with DP. I know you reached out originally when filed, but we can, you know, where it's been,
Are they still open with other boards?
nope, they're.
They're good?
Planning board,
Okay,
you know.
so, okay.
I mean, it's a
right.
administrative change of, you know.
All right, I just
But
wanted
I
to
don't-
make sure that, you know, I didn't wanna get ourselves ahead of ourselves and all of a sudden have to reopen it.
Because it sounds like we've all got a plan, and it just, yeah, I mean, the DEP file number could be the one thing that holds us up at the next meeting, and we don't want that happening.
Can certainly reach out to DEP
Yeah,
and
okay.
give them a, again, it's been a month since this was filed. We can,
Yeah, it seems like we sent it certified mail, and I think it's just the postal service really.
It's a slow time at the
you know.
department, what can I say? It's
Yeah.
January.
Okay,
And I think that at this point, I think we'll probably just void the check and just run it down to DEP so we can get it ASAP. It's kind of done waiting for the postal service to get it there, so.
okay. And Matt, you'll come up, so you'll be in touch with them to talk
Yes.
about options for
Yep, ideas.
replication and other,
certainly.
and mitigation.
So, at our next meeting, what time?
So continuation, can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to February 14th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes.
Thank you.
Valentine's, huh?
Huh?
Valentine's, you said the 14th?
Yeah.
Ah, God.
What happened in January?
You know,
Thank you again and have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
okay, moving on to our 7:25 PM agenda item, it's order of conditions compliance for 31 Bridge Street.
We did receive one letter, or one signed acknowledgement, from the, property owner from one of the tenants. Was received shortly after, I guess, last week sometime. So efforts are being made as, so that was, promising, and, we'll keep following up with him about, new additional ones.
Do we know how many tenants there are?
He said there were 3 tenants who had outdoor storage, so we're 33% there.
And whatever happened with, I haven't heard anything about the fine that we imposed.
We were kind of staying it until, unless,
Yeah, that Marilyn's suggestion to him that if he gets his act together and gets us all the forms, that at that point we would consider,
All right, when were all the forms due? Past tense?
I don't have an answer to that.
yeah, it was just, in terms of keeping him on track.
I don't think he's on track.
Okay,
He must have a way to contact his tenants. He must know who they are. Have you gone and checked what's in the containers?
I have not gone and
Oh,
checked.
okay. Want to go someday?
I'll certainly reach out to the property owner. I'll coordinate with you, and we can go
Tomorrow
through.
afternoon?
Can we do a day that's not gonna be wet?
May rain.
Please,
Oh,
yeah.
The only day it's not gonna rain is what, Saturday this
How
week.
about Monday? Monday or Tuesday? Well,
All right?
I'll coordinate.
Okay, maybe Monday would be good. Just want to take a look what's in there, make sure it's none of the stuff that we've told him shouldn't be in it.
Certainly.
But-
Yep.
But he should be doing this.
Yep.
And he's not. He's just blowing us off.
I don't know about that, he's just,
How many of his, the last meetings that he's been on the agenda has he shown up? Approximately 0. This isn't going well. It's been going on for years and years, but it's not going well.
slow but steady.
Slow,
Maybe,
slow.
I won't even say steady.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't say steady.
How about fits and starts?
Yes, slow and with some fits and starts, exactly. And
still kind of staying on target,
Yeah.
more or less. Okay, so we will have him
Oh.
on the next agenda item as well?
Yep.
On next meeting's agenda,
Yes.
okay? We ready to move to our 7:30
We are.
PM agenda item, enforcement order compliance for Spalding Hill Estates.
Hey, Mark.
Evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mark.
Hello, guys. Dave Guthrie's here, too.
Hello, Dave.
So since the enforcement order, I'm pleased to announce that we have completed everything that was on my list, along with a few additional items that I felt would be advantageous to get completed. In summary, I would say the biggest issue was that the detention basin that's at the bottom of the hill that we're using as a temporary sediment basin. Back in the summer, we had a washout in that area. The bottom of the area was stabilized with trap rock, which is like 6-inch riprap. And then subsequent to that, there was some other work done, and the erosion control that got replaced actually got partially put on top of that. So it didn't provide the level of protection that was necessary. So when we went out there last week, they actually dug all of that riprap out from underneath the silt fence and straw wattles. They replaced it with silt fence fabric. So the silt fence normally has a 4-foot fabric. This was an 8-foot fabric. So it went down roughly 2.5 to 3 feet into the ground and then away from the fence a little bit. And then it was about 3.5 feet to 4 feet exposed up top. The other issue we noticed with the silt fence is that once the water gets through the wattles, it builds up on the silt fence, and it can't handle the hydraulic pressure that builds up. So the silt fence actually gets pulled away. So what I came up with is putting, along with the silt fence, putting a row of hay bales in the front of it, and then a double row of hay bales in back for not only more filtration, but for structural support of the silt fence. I was out there today at around 1:30. It wasn't raining, but there was some snow melt, and we had some showers overnight or whatever. There was a little bit of water coming out of the culvert. It was crystal clear. I have videos of it if you want to see. I also went to the other side of the erosion control area and looked at the ground, and there was some water coming through the through the erosion control fence, just down gradient from that where there was some exposed ground. I took a video of that. Nice clear water. So everything that was done in that area seems to be doing the trick. Water is getting through, but it's all filtered. It's nice and clean.
So when you say hay bales, did you really mean hay?
Straw bales.
Thank you.
Yeah, not hay, straw bales.
Thanks, okay.
Force a habit after so many years, you know.
Yeah, no doubt.
I know.
So that was it for the, at the bottom of the hill. Then on the inside of the loop at St. Paul Lane, we have a temporary sediment basin on the inside of the loop as well. That had been filled probably half full with sediment. So I had them remove the sediment, and then once they did that, they excavated down a little bit lower, get all the sediment out. Then they lined it with filter fabric and put in some trap rock to help filter the water. And you can see at the top of the picture there.
Other end.
Other end, there we go.
Don't look at it.
Up in this area here, it actually drains into this manhole, so they put some hay bales in front of the opening and some more trap rock in there. Straw bales, yep. This manhole goes down and discharges into the lower basin, so you've got a second level of protection for the water here. This is just to slow it down and then get it into the other basin where it settles. And you can see off to the right, over in this area, there's some stockpiles, so we put another row of hay bales further up at the bottom of the hay bales. You can see the stockpiles here, but this row of hay bales goes from curb to curb. Essentially from curb to curb. On the other side, there's straw bales and silt fence that go all the way up the road. There's actually a riprap swale adjacent to the road that was put in to catch any runoff from the road. But now the road actually has Cape Cod berm on both sides, so that the water within the roadway is contained within the roadway, and anything that's in here won't spill over into the roadway. It'll be contained in this area and then go out down into the sediment basin. The other point of interest was the road that goes down to Dunstable Road. During construction activities, there was a berm, a bituminous berm that was put at the top of it. That got crushed and had to be replaced. They didn't do it as quickly as I would have liked, but they did do it. And then we got some rainfall, and we noticed that there was a low spot in the berm, which is basically matching the contour of the road. So as a preventative measure, I put some straw bales across the whole thing. When I went out there and inspected it, the bales were actually on the downhill side of the berm, which didn't do what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to prevent anything from getting over the berm. So I actually moved the bales and put up on top of the berm itself to help prevent the water from getting down St. James Way. So overall, we've done a tremendous amount of work since the beginning of the year out there to keep the site stabilized. I feel that we're in really good shape. We've addressed all of the issues that were in the enforcement order. And we'd like to get our guys out there to get back to work, especially the ones that are, working in the houses themselves and not really doing any digging. That's where we are now.
So I think,
I included my email to you from today about notifying the National Grid crew that was working out there of the stop work order and the enforcement order. That was included in addition to the photos with which were attached to the email.
Yeah, we don't know what happened there, why they were out there. Sometimes they just show up. Sometimes they show up and they don't even do anything, and they leave, an hour or two later. But they were there. You mentioned Henry saw them too on Monday, right?
Ernie, the local building inspector.
no, because it kind of looks like for them to do the work, some of the snow was scraped off and they'd have to do the digging. Is that their own equipment that they come in to do the excavation to lay the
Yes.
lines? Okay.
Yeah, the lines, the gas line's actually going on the lot. It's not within the roadway itself. It's on the lot.
Okay.
And they have all their own equipment. In fact, we wanted to get it done earlier this fall, and we offered to do the digging for them, but they don't allow that. They have to have their own crews do the digging,
So
even though.
that operation is entirely independent from your staff?
Completely
They are
independent.
intolerable, quite honestly. Like, they showed up in October and said, we're ready, and we weren't ready for them, quite honestly. So we said, well, we're not ready, and they said, well, take us now or you don't see us in 2 years. So we said, okay, because we did, after we paved, we did Cape Cod berm on, it's slope granite curbing going out there. But we did the Cape Cod berm on the inside. It's a process we used in another town, which we found to be pretty effective for the winter, but we didn't do it on the outside of the road because the gas line was going between the curb line and the sidewalk. They didn't show. They reached out and said, they send a super round and said, we've got some state work, we'll be back. We said, well, we can't work out this roadway after November 15th. And then we talked it out. They came back in November at some point, and we said, there's nothing we can do. And in dealing with the town engineer, he said, we'll move it onto your lots and under an easement, which we did. And then they disappeared again, and, under the stop work order, we reached out and said, no working to everyone, but we don't have any control over these guys. They didn't respond. They didn't come for 10 days, and then they showed up, I guess, Monday, which we didn't know about, and apparently the enforcement officer didn't stop them for some reason, not that, for whatever reason, but, we saw Matt's email today saying, yeah, they're extremely independent. They may be back next week, or they may not be back at all. We don't know.
I mean, I talked with their senior gas operations supervisor who's in charge of them. He was, he didn't have any notification from the project team. In terms of, he's willing to comply with whatever the commission determines in terms of, if the stop work order was through, they didn't know anything of it. They're happy to comply, but.
Yeah, if we were gonna sneak guys out there, we would've snuck a painter in a house. We had a closing, we sold it without a punch paint, but we certainly wouldn't have stuck a piece of yellow equipment out there. And, that would be, we're not that stupid, I guess, the best way to put it.
So you're gonna have somebody do reviews as well, walk around the site? That's what I had read. Was it Oxbow that you had?
Oxbow is going to be doing all of the stuff related to buffer zone impacts from the releases, and I'm going to be doing the overall
Okay.
construction.
We had a project engineer that left us, but we're gonna replace him with Mark.
Okay.
So, so what you've got in your head, knowing the site, it's like, okay, these are all the key places that I want to check every week, so that you'll kind of be able to get ahead of when something's causing a particular section to start to fail.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. I even bought a new stapler for the silt fence.
I would also ask Mark, like, obviously during some of those times where we had the enormous rain events, we also went back in and added that berm on the outside of the cul-de-sac, which should be substantial, I would think, right?
Yeah.
For containment at that point. We're still gonna have the volume, obviously gonna run down the bituminous and into the catch basins, and, but not sheeting over the land and down that access road to the pond. So hopefully, we're hopeful that we're close to getting our arms around it, you know, and certainly have some more preventative measures in place and, you know, get some stuff stabilized like we have in phase one, which made a big difference, you know. It's all a work in progress.
Matt, are you satisfied with the corrective actions taken?
Yep, the
thus far?
corrective actions
Everything good?
taken, are certainly in accordance with what was.
Everything that was listed? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go through the punch list or Mark's subsequent email from, beginning of this week, you know, identifying everything, but in my site visit yesterday, and again, there was an inch or two of snow, so, you know, we'll see when, you know, Thursday or Friday.
Another inch of rain over the next few days.
Right,
yeah.
you know, I'm planning on stopping out Friday and seeing what the conditions are, and, you know, as the engineering department has mentioned, you know, everything's performance-based, so if it is working, great, but, you know, if what was out there wasn't working, so we shall see what, you know, if it's holding, if it's capturing, if, you know, the discharge has, you know, is not laden with silt, and we shall see.
I'd be okay with lifting the stop work order then.
So make the motion to that effect.
You looking for a motion?
Yep.
Okay, I move we lift the stop work order, given that the corrective actions have been undertaken satisfactorily.
And that we've got the ongoing reporting that should keep us ahead of any issues.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes.
Okay.
I would like to apologize for putting you guys in a position to have to put a stop work order on us. That's never our goal. Like, we consider ourselves a friend of conservation, and it, you know, it pains us to be in that position where you have to do that to us, so.
Pains us to have to do it, trust me, you know it's not something we like to do, you
It does,
know?
'cause it's hurting business.
Yeah, well, it hurts, that piece aside, I think from a relationship standpoint, I don't want that relationship with you guys, you know, I never have, so we'll try to do our best to do better.
I just, when a site gets stripped like this, and I've seen them over my time with the commission, it tends to be problematic. And in the wintertime, you know, you can get rain, snow, then you get the thaw. I mean, I'm still
Rain with the
thinking when
melt,
we have the thaw, it's, you know, that's gonna be another really contentious time. You know, and we've already got an email, you know, people worrying about water, and, just keep on top of it.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, I agree.
You know, I know you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It's an ongoing battle with the labor resources that are out there, but I think we've got a handle on it, so.
Good.
Okay.
And the other question is Marilyn okay? I don't see her tonight.
Yep,
Okay.
just,
Yeah, she's just
just
taking.
a little under the weather.
That's okay,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
take that.
Good.
We'll tell her you were asking.
For sure.
100% she's done.
She's probably watching on TV.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Hello.
You have a good night.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Take care.
Take care.
And ladies?
Okay, moving on to our next 7:30 PM agenda item, it's continue a public hearing for Kilpatrick 5 drawbridge.
They've requested a continuance without discussion to the commission's meeting on February 24th.
Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to February 14th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel? Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Okay, request for minor modification, Town of Westford, Department of Public Works, Pond Brook Culvert.
National Grid reached out as they're starting, as a part of this culvert replacement project, there was a utility pole was proposed to be located south of the, a utility pole located south of the culvert was proposed to be relocated about 25 feet further south. National Grid, as they were, as they're starting to work up the engineering, realized that it may be more beneficial to include another utility pole within the right-of-way on, between the pole that's to be replaced and the existing pole. Typically, I would have administratively approved this, as this is, consistent with the minor activity under the Wetlands Protection Act and exempt activity from filings under the local bylaw, except that I forgot to include that language, the powers to give me, minor modification approvals. So wanted to take it to the commission. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to ask. My only request of National Grid when they do it is to take the excavated materials off-site. Just don't leave the pile of dirt right next to the utility pole in the wetland.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the request for the minor modification of the Pond Brook culvert at Olo Road.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Okay. On to discussion and action items.
Stony Brook Conservation Area user concern follow-up. I have nothing to report at this time, but I will be working in the upcoming months with the Recreation Department in hiring the attendance at the, I think I need to draft kind of a policies and procedures. That's on that one. Okay. I'll
Yeah.
add that to,
At the Day Beach.
yes. Policies and procedures.
Edwards Woods Conservation Area Restoration.
I do not have an update at this time.
Discontinued road between Providence Road and Kersey Circle.
I need to follow up with the one missing puzzle piece to see if legal contiguous access can be obtained between Main Street and the property of H.R. Adams Way. But if not, this may kind of just not proceed. Yep. I do not have an update on the Summer Village Conservation Restriction Amendment update.
Okay, so the Freedom Park improvements, thanks again to Noel and his son for taking care of the two boards that were a risk on the dock. And Matt, you had worked with somebody from DPW to fix that one beam across the end of the parking area, the one that it was down and then now it's...
Maybe? I don't
Okay.
recall.
Okay, so some of them have been taken care of. In terms of starting to flesh out what we would like the scouts to help us with, I went out to the site and basically there's the parking area and then the next lot going towards the pond is 9 Pond Street. And there was in the conceptual master plan, actually, can you pull up that plan? There was a fence shown going across the back of that property line. And what's happened now is part of that chain link fence is no longer there. There's a stockade fence in disrepair, but it's actually built like 2 feet farther into the park. And between the end of the stockade fence and the end of the chain link, there's a gap so that there's actually like a free passage into the neighbor's backyard.
Your photo looked like that, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah, so you can see that,
Yep.
where the chain link fence came along between the parking area and the adjacent property, somebody had added stockade off the end of that chain link fence and then went 90 degrees along the back property line.
So you're saying that stockade there is actually part of the park?
It's on the
On the
park.
park property?
It looks like it's on the park property from what I can see from the plans.
So then what we need to do is have a surveyor shoot the line, and if it was on the park property, you'd have to have him remove it.
Well, it's also in disrepair, so that was one of the things too. When Marisha had provided pictures, it showed sections of the stockade fence just kind of starting to lean. So some of this is, and maybe this gets into where we have a conversation with the new recent owners of 9 Pond Street. You know, we had originally had a chain link fence across it. Given activity in the park, I think homeowners sometimes like to have a more substantial fence to have privacy in their backyard.
But they need to have the fence in their, on
Yes.
their property and not the park property.
And so one of it is do we put in new fencing where the original fencing was, and then if they want to have privacy fencing, they do that on their own property?
What, you mean the chain link? For us to put up chain link?
Just in terms of having a bound where there was originally intended to be chain link there, and there may have actually been chain link there.
Well, why don't we ask that they come in and we can have a discussion with them?
Okay.
You know, because, you know, maybe,
They-
I would rather have a discussion with them, you know, and find out, you know, hey, if you want stockade, if you want your privacy, you know, let's hear about that, but it can't be on park property, it has to be on theirs.
Okay.
You know, do they want us to put up chain link, and, but then, you know, the stockade would have to be inside their property from the chain link. So, you know, we can have that discussion with them.
Okay. The other point that Marisha had brought up is the chain link that goes along the parking area. Is when you're in the parking area and you look towards the neighbor's house, you can actually see all their trash cans. And, yeah, and
So what?
Can't do much with it.
Yeah, you can't do
Yeah.
much about that. It's on their property. They, you know,
Well,
I'm
no,
not gonna tell
th-
somebody
this-
they can't have their
No,
trash
no,
can
but
somewhere.
one of the suggestions was to put a privacy fence here, and that was not part of the original master plan. I don't know if we want more fencing there. It's a very narrow strip. So my first thought had been put vegetation there as screening, but I look at how narrow that strip is, and I look at the presence of a basketball hoop, and I think vegetation probably is not going to stand much of a chance.
Yeah,
Or just leave it the way it is.
yeah.
It the way it is.
I'm
There's a lot of
thinking
privacy. The neighbor also has a good view of the park and can see if there's any problems going on.
That's
too.
true, that they can, yes, that it makes it, because there's also chain link on the other side, going to 5 Pond Street, so yes, you can see through.
And quite frankly, it doesn't look like it's in disarray. I mean, he's got
No, it's
3
in very-
cans there, they were all lined up. It wasn't like there was, you know,
Yeah.
it was being maintained.
Okay. Up one. Yeah, okay, so, the other one is, one of the comments had been, one of Marisha's comments had been to replace that low beam, but kind of barrier between the parking area and the park itself,
Yeah.
to replace that with some other fencing, like a picket fence or whatever, because there are a lot of loose dogs that just kind of run through there into the park. And so that made me realize that we don't have a leash loss sign posted. And so this might be, one of the things to do is remind people that Westford has a leash law. And if we want to include the information on the sign so that if other people see a violation and want to report it, they can call the police non-emergency line. To give people an option other than trying to, feeling the need to confront someone. But looking at that fencing there between the parking area and the park itself, I don't know if we want to look at changing it all or just maybe putting in some low shrubs, dense shrubs on the park side of that barrier.
I'd be more inclined for shrub than more picket fence or stuff that needs to, be maintained or replaced. I mean, right now, what they have there is, fairly solid,
You can't
meant to
drive
be
through it.
used and, it's,
Yeah,
when I start thinking picket fence or whatever, I'm not thinking park-like or, it just wouldn't hold up to the riggers.
yeah. Okay. And just also in terms of the barrier that creates for wildlife.
Yeah.
Okay. So we would maybe look
At least shrubs or something would enhance the habitat.
Yeah, and something, basically something dense and sturdy, so, yeah, a squirrel could go through it, but a dog might not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we know who mows it? Who plows it?
I'm sure it's the department, I mean, I think it's DPW?
Is it being plowed? Do you know?
I don't know that.
There was, when I went, there was, well, granted, there was only about 3 inches of snow, but
It was clear.
it was, no, well, it did, the center of it looked like somebody had been through it with a plow. Yeah, I mean, it's, from the times I've been there, it's used by people. Okay, so.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, so, okay, so, but next step is let's have a conversation with the homeowners of 9 Pond Street about what we do to replace that fencing. Okay, Noel, in terms of getting information to this, for the scouts to start thinking about projects, do you have kind of a template or something that can help us frame up the task list so that they kind of understand what we'd like to have happen?
I think we'd have to have them go and see. the
Okay.
site. A couple of the older scouts and the leaders,
Okay,
and then determine the amount of work. Once the fence is a big thing that
yeah,
all pieces. Some of the other stuff has to be repaired. The chain link fence. As you enter the parking lot, the stuff on the right, the chain link fence, some of it needs to be repaired, I think. Not the stockade falling down. There's some other fence that needs to be repaired. You can look
Okay.
at that later.
Yeah,
Okay.
and again, maybe that's something we have a conversation, because that's joining the abutting property, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, that may be
Yeah, and it's on that side too, the 9 Pond.
yeah.
So
And-
that's one conversation, and then we can estimate the work and.
Well, and actually, that might be a good idea, is once we don't have snow on the ground, is to go out and take a visit, because the other thing too is there's an area between the end of the pavement and the dock where we wanted to put down some pervious pavers to make it a good walking surface.
That'd be easy, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, yeah, I can get in touch with them and let you know.
Okay,
So we do a site visit or wherever,
that sounds
assess the
good.
amount of work.
Okay, and would we want to reach out to the owners of 9 Pond Street for discussion on?
Yeah, I can certainly reach out to them and see if they want to come to the commission, or if they're more comfortable, kind of discussing with you, and we can report back, we can kind of
Okay.
get their sentiments and share with the commission.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
The conservation restriction number 28 at Jarvis Hill, the follow-up, I have not taken the action to follow up with, as discussed at the last meeting.
Okay.
The developer of D Donato Drive off of Groton Road, I think it was 472, 476, it was requested the town planner to take to the select board, accepting a whole bunch of easements, one of which was the trail easement, and it's shown in green on the plan. I actually forgot to grab the actual easements to endorse, but this was tabled from the select board's meeting last week, or yesterday, so we can, I mean, if the commission wants to accept it, I can, and would be able to, I can and stop up at town hall and sign the easements. That's certainly one avenue, or, you know, I can bring the document to the next meeting.
Where is this? I couldn't find this on the map anywhere.
So it's this, this lot here, lot number 8, came before the commission for a order of conditions that had the they had wetland buffer on this side and the vernal pool buffer. They shoehorned it in. It is next to
On Groton Road.
yeah, so it's down by
Towards the
Russell's
Chelmsford,
Way.
towards
Yeah.
the Chelmsford end of the.
Yeah, Russell's
It's-
Way.
Kind of across from where Carl Thompson Drive comes out.
Yeah, kitty corner from there.
Yeah.
And there's two actual kind of concurrent projects going on. There's the subdivision, and also 478 is under construction as well. But if the commission wants to vote to accept the easement, if not, we can also table this till after the select board. But certainly, this was discussed during the public hearing, and there may be a special condition in the order of conditions requiring that the trail easement be granted to, a public trail easement be granted from the cul-de-sac to the commission's property to the
Are there any-
north
there's-
and left.
There's no markers or anything, right? And that's likely to end up between two house lots.
So they were, I think there was discussion during the public hearing regarding demarcating
Whether it's the
that.
center line or the edges, either way, but I think we need something,
No, and I
otherwise
think
it'll
there,
disappear.
I'll have to look at the order of conditions. I'm pretty sure that we included something in there, even though it's not actually on the parcel subject to the order of conditions. But I think there was some language about demarcating the trail easement.
That would be great.
Uh,
Any way they do it,
I
right
can
side,
certainly-
left side, middle, anything is good.
Well, actually, both sides, so
That would be
that,
wonderful. I would-
Right.
But anything, even right down the middle, would be okay.
So in terms of, I'll certainly follow up with, look at the order of conditions for Lot 8 to figure out what the commission decided a couple months ago.
do we want to,
So let's table it.
okay,
Can do. What's next? The Day Agricultural and Conservation Land request to extend that lease. I have been in communication with the lessee, and we're making progress towards
Other than
Actually-
changing the dates on that, given, that we'd extended it a couple of months, and now we want to do 5-year.
Yeah.
Is there some other change that's being proposed? Because we
Well,
asked.
I'm waiting for last year's rental fee or lease fee, and also the soil sampling with which is a part of their
Okay.
contract.
Okay.
The results from that. So
Okay.
I would like those before
Yep.
executing. So it's on there to,
Okay,
it's
Thanks.
progressing.
it doesn't get lost.
Yeah, it doesn't get lost, doesn't get forgotten about. CPC application discussion follow-up. Margaret and I attended the Community Preservation Committee's meeting last night. We had our initial discussion about the 4 applications as previously discussed. My thoughts was that they were received fairly well. And one question that did come up, and certainly I wanted to run by the commission prior to, committing to it, would be for the commission to authorize the expenditure of some funds as a fund matching to an to a couple of the applications, primarily the O'Brien Farm footbridge and the Conservation Commission land management plan preparation. 10% of, have a 10% match for those, as, to put some skin in the game. And I'm open to discussions and.
And this is interesting, because I heard, I heard the same thing said, and I took a little bit of a different take. I got the impression that the chair was asking if we could use Conservation Land Trust funds to cover the cost of those applications.
Yes, and I haven't followed up with the town accountant regarding kind of the routine, the regular applications that are appropriated at town meeting for, the $190,000 for land acquisition and other related expenses. So certainly, I can certainly follow back up with the town accountant to see if that would be appropriate, and if we can.
Well, yeah, because I think we need to either say, yes, we're allowed to do it, or, there's one thing, are we allowed to spend the funds for those types of activities, yes or no? And then if the answer is yes, then looking at, okay, do we want to start depleting that fund to do these other things rather than having, or use that fund to partially fund the project ourselves and have CBC cover the balance, or CPA cover the balance.
Typically like that. See that money used for land acquisition.
Yeah, in case something comes up.
And not to be, parsed out to
Yeah, because
paying
anytime
for other things, as in I'm not really.
land parcel can show up like at a second's notice, and unless we have some way to react with a down payment or deposit or some sort, you have to wait till the next
Right,
town
and
meeting.
so,
Hate to see our bleed
so
fund.
that account currently has approximately $1 million in it. The two requests, the two kind of, the outside of the request for more money to put into that pot, and the funds to update the open space and recreation plan, the other two projects, I think one was 85,000. I was proposing.
One's 85, one's 50, and what's the third one? And O'Brien.
That was 60. So, 145. I think those two projects, totaled 145,000. So it's certainly not all of, Jim.
No, but it's like 10%.
Right, and it is, right. But they've also been very, the CPC and the town have been very supportive of, appropriating those funds fairly regularly, and so even.
Well, there's a requirement under CPA for those.
Right, it's a 10%. It's a 10%, but there's also, I also don't understand how the bonding of the bonding of Salt Box Farm and the Adams property, how that is that again. Those things start happening, and I kind of get a nosebleed, and I black out, and I come to a little while later. So in terms of I can certainly follow up with the town accountant about seeing can those funds be used for that purpose? Because that's that's the starting point. That's kind of dictates whether we go right or left.
Explore, and then we'll see what our options are.
Okay.
Okay.
Meeting minutes?
Meeting minutes?
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
Look fine to me.
We approve the
I
January
had,
10th.
so I had excuse me. So I had a couple of additions suggested, and this was really more of mine, is when there was, what I saw as an important part of the discussion that I want recorded in the minutes. So the first one was with 400 Littleton Road. I wanted to make sure the minutes reflected that the applicant had said, yes, the ramp and the changed location could be made ADA compliant. The second one was, for, the draft enforcement order for Monadnock Drive. It just, the crushed stone was washed away into the wetlands because that's part of what makes it a very big deal for us. Then in Spalding Hill, I just wanted, where there was significant flooding to a couple residences, I wanted to make sure that it was clear that it was residences outside the subdivision so that they were impacting others. And then the last one was, Matt's really good point about if the addition is slab versus full foundation, is there a chance that, if it's gonna be a full foundation, then the plans should include the watering process if needed. So those were kind of, I thought, important points to catch for the public record.
So you want a motion to approve the meeting minutes as amended?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Second. All those in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
And Margaret, yes. Okay, and I think that brings us to the end.
Schedule a site visit,
Site
Matt and I
visits.
on Monday.
Yep,
sometime.
yeah, I'll coordinate that,
Okay.
in the
Yeah.
next couple days.
But that's
Okay.
that's the plan. We have ones, we're gonna be planning Bridge Street.
Yep. Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Noel? Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
Margaret, yes. Okay.